So this is the summary of Srimad Bhagavatam. We have already heard the story of Gyan Vairagya Bhakti Mata meeting with Narada Muni, and then how they were blessed by the mercy of Narada. Thereafter we have also heard the life of the great devotee who was born from the cow, and later on his name was known as Gokarna because he had the ears just like the cow. So Gokarna and his younger brother Dhundukari and mother Dhundubi. So we have heard the life story and how Gokarna delivered his brother from his sinful reactions by reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. And now we're going to go straight to Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 1. So this chapter 1 is in Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto. We have around 19 chapters, and each chapter explains different subject matters. So the first one, the chapter first, basically explains the conversation between the Suta Goswami and the rishis, the sages, assembled at the forest of Naimisaranya, the holy place, and they were about to perform 1000 sacrifice. In fact, we hear that they were performing 1000 years of sacrifice. So whatever it may be, the point we can understand, the point that is being emphasized here is that the rishis assembled at the forest of Naimisaranya were performing this great sacrifice for the benefit of mankind. So the sages at Naimisaranya, headed by Sonak Rishi, they assembled to perform thousands sacrifice. During that time, they made 6 important inquiries to Suta Goswami, the most senior amongst all the sages. And those are the 6 questions that raised by the sages to Suta Goswami were answered, and according to the question, Suta Goswami explained Srimad Bhagavatam. And the questions were, number 1, explain the absolute and ultimate good for people in general. Second question was, select the essence of all scriptures and explain it for the good of all. There are so many Puranas and literatures, Upanishads, Mahabharata, lot of scriptures are there. So therefore, they wanted the essence of all. The sages want to hear the essence because there was no time for going through each and every literatures. And number 3, they wanted to know what is the purpose of the Lord's appearance. Number 4, what are the activities of the Lord's? In other words, what is the activities of the Lord involving creation? And number 5, what are the pastimes of his various incarnations? And the last question, not the least, since Sri Krishna has departed, of whom have religious principle taken shelter? So these are the 6 main questions that leads to recite the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. And by the mercy of Sutta Goswami, and of course by the inquiries of the sages of Naimisharanya headed by Shanak Rishi, Sutta Goswami goes on explaining goes on answering the above questions as we have heard. So in chapter 2, Sutta Goswami instructed the sages that the supreme occupation for all is devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Therefore, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship him. By devotion, one gains positive knowledge about Krishna and it is free from the cycle of karma. The object of such devotion is Lord Vasudev, Bhagavad Tattva. He is the transcendental cause of all causes and appears in his incarnations to attract those situated in goodness. In chapter 3, he explains the Krishna who is the source of all incarnations. As the sages describe, or Sutta Goswami describes, and as the sages wanted to hear of the Lord's incarnations, Sutta Goswami describes how the Purusha avatar expanded the universe within which the other incarnation manifests. Although they are unlimited, Sutta named some of the main incarnations and described how Lord Krishna is the original fountainhead of them all. The Virat Roop universal form is an imaginary form of the Lord. It introduces neophyte to the idea of God having a form. Sometimes we hear a lot in different part of the countries that, we always say God is great, but then we underestimate God and say he has no form, especially the Mayavadis. So how can he be a great if we have a form and if he doesn't have a form? So this universal form basically gives the clarification. It introduces such type of neophyte people to have some idea that yes, God does have form. The wise always discusses the transcendental appearance and activities of the Lord. Thus they attain full knowledge of his glorious and they are freed from repeated birth and death. So in answer to all the sages' questions, Sutta Goswami he will now explain Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the full account of the Lord's activities and which has specially appeared in this age of Kali for the benefit of all. So, in chapter 4, he goes on explaining the first incarnation, or one of the first incarnation of the Lord, the appearance of Sri Narada. Sonaka appreciated Sutta Goswami and requested him to speak Srimad Bhagavatam, and then inquire about those who were involved in Bhagavatam manifestation, namely Vasudev, Sukadeva, Maharaj Pariksit, etc. Sutta replied by describing Vasudev's despondency after dividing the Vedas and preparing the Itihasas, Puranas and Mahabharata. Vasudev thought that his feelings of despondency were probably due to his neglecting to present Bhagavad Dharma. Just at that time, the great Rishi Devarshi Narada arrived at his place. And then, in chapter 5, we hear that Narada instructs on Srimad Bhagavatam to Srila Vasudev, because Vasudev is a disciple of Narada Muni. So, when Vasudev asked Narada to explain the cause of his dissatisfaction, Narada replied that Vyasa had failed to describe the sublime and spotless glories of the Lord, which can alone mitigate the miseries of material life. Narada instructed Vasudev to meditate on the Lord's pastimes in trance and describe them for all. Narada illustrates the importance of hearing the transcendental glories of the Lord by narrating the story of his birth in a previous kalpa as the son of maid servant. So, of course, as I said, this is the summary of Srimad Bhagavatam that we are going through, hearing. But then we're going to go we're going to describe each chapters in the story format. Especially in today's world, we hear a lot of kathakars, the Bhagavad Kathakars, the reciters of Srimad Bhagavatam, explaining different part of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, but we'll be describing each and every chapter by chapter, so that we do not escape any chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam. Generally, when we hear Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Katha recited by the so-called scholars, we hear that they just choose particular subject matters or particular topics, especially which is interested to the society or interested by the group of societies, and they discuss on particular subject matters, and they do not really go into the Srimad Bhagavatam, and they just talk about different activities, different pastimes, different people's life, politics, etc. and etc. But they do not really go into Srimad Bhagavatam, and therefore they hardly make any devotees even after hearing hundreds and hundreds of times the Srimad Bhagavatam. So now we go back to the summary, chapter 6, where conversation between Narada and Vasudev takes place. So In chapter 6, Narad Muni tells the story of his previous birth and how he attained his spiritual form as Narad Muni. By the grace of Lord Vishnu, Narad can travel everywhere in transcendental and material world, constantly singing the glories of Lord while vibrating on his veena. In chapter 7, Sutaji Maharaj explains to the sages the punishment of the son of Dronacharya. We hear how Dronacharya's son was aggressively killing the son of Pandavas while they are sleeping. They are known as one of the aggressors when you do such type of alien activities. Therefore, because he was a Brahmin and son of spiritual master, he could not be killed, but at the same time, he had to be punished because he deserves to be killed. So, because of Krishna's desire, he was punished by Arjuna. So, therefore, the Sonaka Rishi wanted to know that. So, Sonaka asked that Vasudev or Sutaji Maharaj that what Vasudev did after Narada's departure. In reply to Suta, he describes how Vasudev began to meditate. So basically, Sutaji Maharaj is explaining to the sages of Naimisaranya headed by Sonak Rishi here, and Sutaji Maharaj describes what had happened after he met Vasudev and what Vasudev told him, what he experienced after Narada explained to him, like that. It goes in the disciplic succession. So Vasudev began to meditate and saw the Supreme Lord with Maya under his control. Suta explains further how the jiva, souls, are under the influence of Maya and only by devotion can become free from their miserable condition, and that the feeling for such devotion manifests from hearing from the Bhagavatam. Vyasadhyana taught Bhagavatam to Sukadeva Goswami, who, although transcendentally situated, was attracted to the Bhagavatam. This shows that the Lord's pastimes are not mundane. Sutta next begin the history of Pariksit with the narration of the son of Drona being punished. The story leads to Pariksit's remarkable birth and finally the manifestation of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Sukadev is the son of Vasudev. So in chapter 8, it describes the prayers by Queen Kunti and Pariksit saved. With the death ceremonies of the war completed, Krishna prepared to return to Dwarka. At that moment, Uttara, who was great son-in-law or great daughter-in-law, appeared to Krishna to protect her unborn child Pariksit from Aswathama's Brahmastra. Krishna counteracted the weapon. Thereafter, Kunti glorified Krishna with choice prayers, and King Yudhishthir, thinking himself a terrible sinner responsible for the great atrocities performed in the war, Kurukshetra war, expresses his situation to the Lord. In chapter 9, the passing away of Bhismadeva in the presence of the Lord, Krishna. Lamenting Yudhishthira rejoined to the battlefield of Kurukshetra. In other words, Yudhishthira Maharaj, he journeyed, or he went to the battlefield of Kurukshetra, followed by his brothers, Bhim, Arjuna, Nakul and Sahadev, and of course, Sri Krishna. And accompanied by many great sages, they assemble around the great Bhishma Pitamaha, who lie on his death bed of arrows. Bhishma glorified Krishna's supreme position and gave multifarious incarnations on dharma. So, Bhishma Pitama glorifies Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his supreme position, and gives multifarious instructions on dharma to Yudhishthira Maharaj. Meditating on Sri Krishna, Bhishma gave up his life and went back to Godhead. Yudhishthira returns to Hastinapur to rule the kingdom. In chapter 10, after the departure of Bhishma Pitamaha, Lord Krishna also gets ready to depart to Dwarka. So, with his instructions, with his guidance and assistance, he enthroned the Yudhishthira Maharaj, and now he thinks that the responsibility is typically over, so he should now leave. So, with his misgivings eradicated by the advice of Bhishma Pitama, Yudhishthira ruled the kingdom. During his reign, all of life's necessities were in excess and the citizens had no anxieties. At that time, Krishna, much to the disappointment of all the residents of Hastinapur, left for Dwarka accompanied by Royal Military Division. In chapter 11, Lord Krishna's entering into Dwarka is being described. All the citizens of Dwarka excitedly receives Lord Krishna with great pomp and praise. The city was gorgeously decorated. Amidst his dear devotees of Dwarka, the Lord reciprocated perfectly with each and every one of them. And in chapter 12, it describes the birth of Emperor Pariksit Maharaj. Shonaka humbly inquired about the birth, death and destiny of Maharaj Pariksit. Suta replied by taking us back to Ashwatthama's release of the Brahmastra weapon and give us the descriptions of Maharaj Pariksit from that point. In chapter 13, he describes the quitting of the home. In other words, Dhritarashtra quits home. He takes Banaprastha. He goes to the forest. He leaves Hastinapur. He leaves the kingdom. During the war, Vidur goes on pilgrimage. Desiring to help his brother Dhritarashtra, he returns to Hastinapur and advised Dhritarashtra to leave home. Taking his advice, Dhritarashtra, followed by his wife Gandhari, went to the Himalaya mountain and by the yogic process attained perfection. Observing her husband burning in the fire of mystic power, Gandhari entered that fire. In chapter 14, the disappearance of Lord Krishna. Arjuna traveled to Dwarka to meet Lord Krishna. When he fails to return after 7 months, Yudhishthira sees many inauspicious signs that marks the changing of the yuga. Just then a distressed Arjuna returns and Yudhishthira inquires about the cause of his sadness. In chapter 15, the Pandavas timely return. Arjuna explained that Lord Krishna, his dearest friend, has left the planet. Arjuna's power has also completely gone, and he remembered that it was only due to Lord Krishna that the Pandavas were successful in so many ways. Hearing of the Lord's departure, Yudhishthira and all his brothers renounced the kingdom, headed for north, and in full Krishna consciousness attained the spiritual sky. Vidura also leaves his body at Prabhas. Draupadi and Subhadra observes in thought of Krishna attain the same result as their husbands. In chapter 16, how Pariksit receives the age of Kali. After the Pandavas retired, Pariksit began the rule of the kingdom. Seeing the influence of the age of Kali in his kingdom, he went out to conquer and punish all infiltrators. At that time, Dharma and Bhumi met in the form of a bull and a cow and together lamented the disappearance of Lord Krishna and the influence of the age of Kali. In chapter 17, punishment and reward of Kali. During the conquest of Maharaj Pariksit, he came across the personality of Kali violently beating a cow and bull, Bhumi and Dharma. Pariksit was about to kill him, but Kali took full shelter of the king and was granted permission to reside where there is gambling, intoxication, prostitution, animal slaughters, and gold. And in chapter 18, Maharaj Pariksit was cursed by a Brahman boy. Maharaj Pariksit remained Krishna conscious always and guarded against Kali flourishing in his kingdom. On a hunting trip, as ordained by the Lord, he dealt improperly with a Brahmana named Sonak Rishi and was cursed by the Brahman's son to die within 7 days from the bite of a snake bird. Sringi Rishi, the son of the Samik Rishi, was Sringi Rishi. So in chapter 19, the appearance of Sukadeva Goswami has been described. Hearing of the course, Pariksit accept it as the mercy of the Lord. So when he heard, Pariksit Maharaj, when he heard that the son of the sage, Sringi Rishi has cursed him to die within 7 days by the snake bird named Taksha, he was not agitated. Pariksit Maharaj, he was not agitated, rather Pariksit accepted as the Lord's mercy and renounced his kingdom. He goes to the Ganges to fast until death. Many sages and sadhus from all over the universe descend to that place. The great Sukadeva Goswami also appeared on the scene. He is respected by all assembled and is offered a raised seat. Pariksit Maharaj asked Sukadeva Goswami to explain the path of perfection, one specially to that person who is about to die within a week. What should one hear, chant, remember, or to whom he should worship? So, in Pariksit Maharaj's case, we can understand that at least he had 7 days. We knew he could prepare himself. But in general, in our life, we understand we hardly have any kinds of indications or awareness. So there is no ring bell for us. Any time, any moment, any second, any day we can leave the body. Therefore, we should be prepared. So it is applicable more than Pariksit to us. This particular instruction that we are about to hear, which will be narrated by Sukadeva Goswami himself, the son of Vasudev, to Maharaj Pariksit in the second canto. Thank you very much. We'll hear the details what Sukadeva Goswami is going to speak to Maharaj Pariksit in second canto. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.